Hello, screenwriters. Welcome to the Writing for Screens, live Ask Me Almost Anything and Writing in Public project. My name is Glenn Gers. I am here every weekday, if I can be, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to work on a pilot script step by step in front of you. And at the same time, be available for you to ask me almost anything. Should you not be live when I am, you are more than welcome to ask me a question at my website, writingforscreens.com. There's a contact me button on just about every page. And of course, I would welcome questions and comments through the comments here on YouTube. Any video will get to me. Please feel free to comment on what we're doing. Give me suggestions. I'm actually going to go right to that subject right now. Before we get into the next steps of the writing, I got a comment which made me think a lot about the process of getting notes. This is something that student writers run into a lot too, but professionals run into at every step of the job. You get what are called notes, which is really criticism and suggestions. You have very little choice often about whether or not you accept the notes. You pretty much have to. It's your job. But one of the things that happened, I got a note in the form of a comment. It was on an earlier one of these videos, and the simple comment was, "You'd get more views if you had better thumbnails." And the second I read that, I thought, ouch, and I thought, yes. It was something that had been on my mind before, and the second that this person said it, I thought, good note, fair. That's sort of what I wanted to talk about, is the idea that when you hear a note, very often your first reaction is, no, screw you, you don't understand, I know better. And you have to think about that, because sometimes you're just feeling hurt or scared. But a lot of times what you'll also be thinking is, oh, yeah, I remember when I did that thing, and I remember not being sure about it, or at least being aware of the potential for it to go wrong in exactly this way. And when that note hits you, when that note gets to you and you hear that thing that you were worried about before, try to take a deep breath and go, yeah, that makes sense, actually. The fact is, I was concerned about the thumbnails of these live streams. The other thumbnails I had worked on for my main videos, I'd worked on for a long time, because there's a lot of advice on YouTube on how to use thumbnails to get more views. And the truth is, if you follow that advice, you look like everybody else. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's familiar to the audience. They know what they're looking for. But at the same time, it struck me that if I were to follow that advice, I wouldn't stand out in any way. And I had a graphic design idea that I liked, based actually in book covers from the 1970s. And that's how I got to the thumbnails I now use, which are just graphics, very flat, very colorful. So I continued that with the thumbnails of this series, these live streams. And I've begun to wonder, so I did some tests. When I got this note this morning, I said, you know what? I should think about an alternate thumbnail, one that does get more views. I tried this. I'm also thinking about the title, because the Writing in Public project is very, let me turn that off for a second while it's over my face. The Writing in Public project is sort of grand and wonderful, but it's not actually saying, hey, this is teaching you screenwriting. And when you look at a thumbnail, it would help to know that. So that's why I was thinking of changing the name of this series to Screenwriting Step by Step, because that's honestly what we're doing. The problem is, this is the label I made on this thumbnail is tacky but effective, because it shows you that there's I'm writing on the screen. You can see me there. Horrible screen grab. I would never use that one. Or I could do one that's more like the others, just graphics, just um, something very strong. I could change the colors all the time. And I am leaning towards that. But we have the weekend to think about it. So I'm going to ask you, if you're out there, if you see this video, the weekend of June 26th, 27th, 2021, comment if you have an opinion on one that you like, because starting next week, I'm going to change the thumbnails and the title of this series, and I would love to hear what you think. So that's the first step. The second step is to pay attention when you get a note. By the way, there's a really good podcast called The Screenwriting Life, where they talk a lot about these emotional reactions you have to work situations and the process of screenwriting. It's called The Screenwriting Life. I don't have a graphic right now, but anyway, I just want to recommend that. Anyway, so notes. Just remember to listen for that yes, that click, that oh yeah, I actually know what they're talking about, and I can understand it. Hey, thank you. I got Ricky Wells here saying I like the me too. I like the minimalistic thumbnail. Well, okay, now it's starting to be a landslide. Let's see how it goes. Thank you so much for letting me know that. Cool. Let's get to work, which is why we are here. And the truth is, I did some good stuff in the past couple of days, and it is time to look at it. Here in the this is a note from 2 days ago, actually, which is just I was thinking about the fact that we've got this villain, one of our two villains. We got a layers of villain. The serial killer is an old man, like elderly, like not a threat to anybody. And that's going to make for a kind of weird final showdown, or penultimate, second to last showdown. And I was thinking about that, and what I thought was, okay, yeah, this old man who is confronting them is not going to be a physical threat unless he has a gun. Originally, his serial killer method was very un-gun-like. So I sort of like the idea of just bringing up the concept of the gun as the brutal equalizer. And by the way, I am not saying this as any form of favoring guns. I'm saying it as a form of fearing guns, in that anyone with a gun becomes horribly, horribly dangerous. And I want to use that. I want to use that feeling, and also that sense of, oh, we're not afraid of this guy. Oh, we are afraid of this guy. So that is just a little note that I wanted to add into our outline, because I was starting to think about our villain. And the first thing I thought was, well, wait a second. In our big showdown, we're going to have an old guy, like a real old guy. So, final crisis. Killer has a gun. And at the moment, I am just putting this big glob of writing here. I'll take this one out because it's obvious. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about that now. I'm not going to clean up the outline right now because we have more important stuff to get into. By the way, I noticed that there are 3 people watching live, which is freaking cool, and I want to say hello to all of you and thank you. Please feel free to comment if it so occurs to you. So let's get into the big questions, because one of the things I realized is I'm just sort of in the phase that we go through at the beginning of a project. Unless you are just following a formula, you're groping. You're trying to get comfortable with the idea that you just sort of impulsively decide, oh, she's an EMT, or she's a therapist, or he's a this, or he's a that. And you partly do that out of your own unconscious, and partly out of your own experience, and partly out of stealing from a lot of places that is not a bad thing. when they say stealing, we do not mean you actually are copying someone else's work. It means you are, in the phrase of many, many people, supposedly T.S. Eliot, good poets, bad poets borrow, good poets steal. The idea that if you borrow something, you're planning to give it back. You're not making it your own. But if you steal it, you're making it your own. And that is the key to literary stealing. To take something and think, what is my version of it? How am I making this new and different and in some way mine? And that's the key. But at the moment, I'm just randomly stealing and from life and from other art. And what I thought was, okay, if this is a romance hidden within a serial killer thriller, I had been thinking about, frankly, the model of charade, in which, frankly, they fall in love on first sight because they're Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn, and everyone knows they should be in love with each other. And I've done a couple of scripts like that where you have a couple fall in love immediately. And one of the notes I always get is, well, why? How could they fall in love so quickly? So I'm a little gun shy on that one, a little wary. But the other thing I was thinking of, and I should give credit to this, I watched a series, a BBC series on HBO Max called Starstruck. Very funny, 6-episode romantic comedy. And a lot of it is about the idea that this couple can't get together until the end. And that's what I thought. I thought, you know what? That's an equally legit model, form, where you don't have a romantic comedy where the people bond quickly and then they battle it out and then they have a problem and then they come back together. But more of everything in this story is about what's keeping them from getting together until the very end. So that's what I really got to. This romance ends with a beginning. That's the new shape I want to try and get to. The idea that I don't have to worry about getting them together, breaking them up, getting them back together again. This is all a long process of getting them together. Don't know how that's going to work yet, but I want to get it into the overview. What is the romantic? See, right there, I was puzzling about this. The romantic story. And it's also actually a note about the end. So we will go to the outline and we will put this in there. At the very, very beginning, at the very, very end, this romance ends with a beginning. They get to saying, hey, you want to try? You want to go out? You want to see if we can do this thing? I like that. It's like I said, all of these choices essentially come down to something clicking in your head. So I like to say clicking, pinging, singing, whatever it is that you want to call it. There's a feeling of acceptance or recognition or excitement. That is a lot of the writer's job, is getting comfortable with recognizing your emotional and intellectual subconscious response to your own ideas or someone else's, as with the notes. Something will just hit you and you'll go, yes. And sometimes then there's the fear, oh, what if that's wrong or whatever. Getting used to saying yes or no, getting used to making the choice and knowing that you're doing it because it just works for you more than something else. That is a truly, truly valuable part of writing that you should get practiced at. Practice listening to your own feelings and ideas when you think of stuff. Obviously, you'd think, well, I'm listening to myself. You're not always. You're sometimes thinking in terms of a formula or a class you took or a book you've read, and you're not thinking, I would like to see that. I get that. I can imagine that happening. And that is the key to creative writing. I can imagine that happening. I'm not doing it because I'm supposed to. I'm doing it because, boy, I think that's fun. That's really important. All right. Let's set this aside for a moment and go back to our notes. So then we have a lot of questions about what is this love story? And I will once again say, I don't know yet. I just don't know. This is the hard stuff. This is the part where you say, I'm going to ask the question. I'm on a timer here in front of you all. I don't have that answer yet. So what I need to do is get it here where I won't forget to ask this question. And I'm going to put it in the form of a question. And I'm going to make it nice and bold so I don't lose it. What is the magic of this romance? What do they have in common that they don't find in others? Why? What do they need from each other? In other words, why are they a good couple? Why is this a good love story? That is sometimes, I mean, there's 1,000 cliched answers that I could come up with. I may yet say, oh yeah, he's stuffy and she's free, or, you know, there's so many cliches about the mismatched couple, and I'm veering towards that. But I need to find some reason, some center for this romance, and I'm not yet there yet. Okay. All right, so but for the moment, we are just going to set that aside and keep moving because I did come up with other cool stuff. I had talked about the idea that Madeline is partly defined by the fact that she used to be married to George, the podcaster murder victim. So that's going to tell us something about her, because why was she married and why is she no longer married? Questions always show up. Questions tell us about the characters. My initial answer had been she broke up with him because he was an obsessive serial killer and hunting podcaster. It was too on the nose, too easy, and it just made the thing feel suffocating. Everything was about the same topic. So then I thought, what if they were married young, a long time ago, and she hasn't seen him in a long time? And I sort of put a pin in that. Today I thought, if she was married young, and I've also talked about the idea that she is trying to change her life when we meet her, maybe she was young and impulsive and wild when she got married, and that was going badly, so she went straight. She was scared straight. She decided to give up on her wild and free self and put on the straitjacket of safe conformity. And there may have been good reasons. It can be very frightening to be young and free. But now she's looking back and she is regretting it. So this is stuff. I suddenly thought, I know that person. I can believe in that person. Once again, the click. Yeah, I can see a person who's saying, wow, what did I do with my life? Especially because Norman, who she's with, is not asking that question yet. He's saying, oh, my life was right. They're all wrong. So I'm going to just copy this into our Madeline section. At the moment, doing the overview, should I put it in the, if I put it in the outline, I have to work on it. The outline is the workplace. The outline is where you do the work, and then the overview is where you sort out, you keep the clean spare version of your absolute bottom line. But right now we're not there. We are at the figuring it out stage. So I'm going to find my Madeline section. Meet Madeline. Sorry to zoom. I don't know what that's like for you guys when I zoom along here, like racing up and down this document. Meet Norman. Oh, I missed her. Meet Madeline. Okay. And I'm just going to throw these notes in here too. One of the things you do is, and then later, honestly, when I can take more time to look through these, one of the things I do is I look at these big swath of notes I've made and I strip it down. It's especially in screenwriting, the job is stripping it down to a clear, dramatic action. Okay, for the moment though, I'm just gonna get this stuff in there. Okay, so we get a better sense of Madeline. Madeline was a wild young person. She got married. She got married to an equally wild young person. It turned out to be a horrible mistake. She closed off the options of her life, divorced him, did something safe, and now she is questioning that. I like it. I get it. Then I turned to Zach because I was thinking about villains. I was thinking about our final conflict, and I was thinking about the idea that why does he do this? Oh, hold on. I've got a comment. Cool as heck. Okay, Michael Goncharov says, I'm gonna switch out here so you guys can read this whole thing. My neighbors got drunk and got loud, waking me up. It is late night in Russia, but it is okay. So I can live in. I can be in live. Say thank you for your inspiring words. Oh gosh, I didn't know where this was going. Your advice is Jules. Thank you so much. I cannot tell you how useful it is for me to know that I am actually helping people, because that is really the point. But I did not honestly know that I was going towards praise of myself. Michael, welcome. I hope you get some sleep later, but hang in for a few more minutes here because we're having some good times working on the writing. Zach, let's talk about Zach. The thing I know about Zach is he does this horrible stuff and that he is young, that he is of what they are calling the Zoomer generation, which is the digital 21st century generation. Many, many steps away from the boomers, my generation. And the conflict of boomer and Zoomer has been an internet topic for a couple of years now. The basis of it is that the Zoomers are, I believe legitimately, pissed off at the boomers for screwing up the world so badly. I apologize wholeheartedly. So I want Zach to be that, but that may not be his motive. That may just be his generation. And that actually came to me as, why is Zach doing this ruthless, selfish, callous stuff? He's murdering a man for his own advancement. And I thought, why? You can have a character do something really horrible for a noble reason. That is an absolutely workable character, but I just don't buy it here. Especially because this particular action, this particular horrible action, it's hard to make it socially noble. You know, becoming a more popular podcaster or influencer, yes, sure, you could then use it to, publicize the lack of water on our planet, clean water on our planet. Yeah, I'm not gonna believe that person. I'm just gonna think that script is just making fun of them. And I like to believe my characters. I like to have them, even when they are doing something terrible, have a little part of them that I recognize. I may not approve of, but I know in my soul that the feelings they have are in all of us, I believe. So I think when I thought, okay, if Zach is not ideal, and justify the means, do his thing for idealism, what if he's just doing it because he's just selfish, just desperately feels like the world is screwed and I want, as I said, the world is a mess and I want for me. I get that. Boomers have said that before. So that I think is central to Zach, and I am going to make that semi-official by putting it in his overview. Saw an opportunity and took it selfishly out of despair. I know that guy. I believe in that guy. I don't know him personally. Okay, then the question comes, why George? Why? And this is one I do not have an answer yet, but this is a really important question. This is going to go into the outline because we're still working on this one. That's not the outline. Outline. Here we go. I'm going to put this way at the top because even though we're not going to find out at the end, it is in this action. George dies. George dies because Zach kills him. And so I'm going to put my questions about that right here. But the answers in the script are not going to really be revealed until the very end. Your outline is a working document. It is not for showing other people. It is not for any purpose except giving you a place to think in scenes. That one's so important. We are going to go back to the big graphic. Think in scenes. Break all of these ambitions and ideas down into scenes. That is what I am doing. Sometimes I put them in the overview because they're an overarching vision, but mostly you have to turn that into scenes. So, okay, you got this, right? Think in scenes. Right now, I know that this scene of murder is Zach is doing it. What was the reason Zach chose George? And one of the things I think is it should be terrible because you know it should just be. I haven't figured this out. One thing is I thought, what if George actually was stumbling on something amazing, some insight into some way to find the killer that no one had thought of before, and only Zach knows it, so he killed him simply to steal his advantage, his opportunity. That's possible. But I also kind of like the idea that it was just something petty. And something just crappy. This is a sort of, grew up in the 1970s where movies often came down to somebody doing things for absurd reasons. And that's a little bit of my personality. Not to do things for absurd reasons, to like stories about that. Brief question from Stana. I'm going to do this. Do you compose a new outline for rewrites? Start from scratch? No, I do not. Now and then I will make a copy and start that sort of from scratch. But honestly, no. What I do is I try to make a new version of it, leave the old one, clean it up. What's good I keep, what's bad I make a note, a question. But you can. No reason why not. Sometimes it helps to go step by step through the script. When you've finished a draft, it's a sort of cool thing to read your own work and break it down, to make a new outline from your script as if you were adapting your script and being critical about it. That is a legitimate process. I don't do it usually because I'm too close to it. I simply know it too well after I've done a draft. If I had been working on it, finished a draft, set it aside for like 6 months and written other things, and then I come back to it, maybe a good idea to do that, to just outline it again. I usually take the old outline, duplicate it, and then fool with it so I haven't messed up my old notes in case I need them. So now I start to yell at myself. which I do often in this other font. This is the lesson font. This is the, hey, explain to them why you're thinking the way you do. This was big. This is really important. I'm going to actually make it big here. I have slipped into a phase where I'm just sort of, here, try this, try this, try this, try this. Now and then you got to say, get back to the story. Get back to the basis of what you're doing, which is, what are these people doing? When I'm trying to decide who these characters are, I already know a little bit. I know that they are investigating a murder. I know that they are coming together in a group. These are things that are basic, that are not going to change. Those are parts of the story. And one of the most important things you can do is use what you have. Look at the stuff you've already chosen. I have chosen to make this about a group of people investigating a murder. That's done. That's real. Think about it. So the action of this story is that they are trying to solve a murder mystery. They want to know who killed George, and they want to know where the serial killer is, because they believe he did it. And the reason they have to do that is because the killer is going to kill them if they keep doing what they're doing. Now, there is, of course, the question, why don't they just stop? But I believe they've set the killer off, that he now fears them. And this is really central. The action of this story is solving, investigating, puzzling, reasoning. That is the action of this story. And that is important to keep in mind. Just like, I'm going to put it right up here. The action of this story. Because different stories have different essential actions. Like in a lot of comic book movies, honestly, the essential action is fighting. They're fighting a bad guy, cool. But you find yourself always going to fighting. In some stories, it's about explaining or exposing or revealing. In some, it's about building. I would argue that Social Network is the main action is building. They are building their company. They're building their software. Anyway, it's good to remind yourself, what is the basic action of this story? Ricky. Sorry. Funny thing is, today I said to myself that I need to start writing again, and YouTube suggested this channel. This is great. I'm so glad. That's good to know. Thank you. So let us, oh, sorry, I am wrong document. Okay. So what I got to is, if they're trying to solve this because the killer is after them, you need a strong motive to put yourself in a life or death situation. In this case, I believe that having been put in the situation by Zach stirring the pot and George and Zach trying to identify the serial killer, which makes serial killers mad, in my opinion, then our main characters, Norman and Madeline, are simply trying to solve this because someone else got them into a dangerous situation. So that's the core of the story. But I thought, well, why doesn't the serial killer just tell them he didn't do it? And I realized that that's the end of the pilot. Is he says to them, I didn't do it. And I thought, well, why doesn't the story end there? I mean, like they could say to him, all right, we believe you didn't do it. We're going to go look for the guy who did do it. And then there's really no threat anymore. And what I realized is, so the question was, why don't they believe him, or why doesn't that end the drama? And I thought, okay, somebody contacts you and convincingly says, I am a serial killer, but I did not do that murder. There's a part of you that's going to be like, I just got contact from a serial killer. I have to tell the police. I have to help them stop him. And that's where the threat increases for him, is that in trying to tell them he's been framed, he's actually also confessing. He's, in order to prove that he is the guy who didn't do this one, he's going to have to prove that he did do the, he's going to have to convince them that he is the serial killer. And that's a cool thing. The problem is, if they do believe him that he didn't do it, how do they not then start looking around and catch Zach early? And that came to the big thing. What if Zach, when you've got somebody trying to pull off a twist, pull off a secret, what the best way to do that is you distract. It's like a magic trick. You have to keep the eye on something else. So Zach is trying to keep the eye off himself. He moves the frame. He moves the frame from the serial killer who says, "Wasn't me." And they're like, "Oh, we believe he wasn't him. We got to still get him." But who killed George? Zach moves the frame and makes it look like George did it himself. That George killed himself to frame the killer as a way to get attention for his work, which he was leaving behind in despair. I think I can make that work. It's very convoluted. I don't know if you guys could follow that, but I know that plot makes sense to me at least. So that is what I am going to put into, you know what? I'm going to put this into the outline where it will be work, where I can make it. All right. And actually, this is frustrating. This is the frustrating thing about doing a pilot. If the end of the pilot is the killer says, "I'm the killer, but I didn't do this," then everything I'm just talking about, the whole brilliant plot I'm working on, I'm not going to write unless I write the whole show. You usually, when you're working on TV, you write the pilot. Let me just put this in here, and then I'm going to go back. Here's the deal. When you write a pilot, you're writing that first hooky, let's get this all set up and make people want to have more. And then they ideally hire you to put together a staff and write it with them, which is an amazing thing. I wish I could do that. But the truth is, most of us will not be in that position when we write a pilot. We will write a pilot. It will become something that gets us hired to work on somebody else's show. That's 90% of TV writing. You write a pilot, you come up with this great thing, you try to sell it. They say, "You've never run a show before. Show is $100 million juggernaut. You're not ready, but go work on this other show." So the problem is, I'm thinking of all this great stuff for this whole arc, but I'm only going to write the pilot. And honestly, I understand why some people write the whole limited series themselves. Downton Abbey, True Detective, Mayor of Easttown. One person wrote that whole thing. I don't know if I can do that for this because that would take a long time, but it's tempting, isn't it? I think we'll stop there for today. Thank you so much for watching. This has been just a heck of a kick, going on a long time. I will see ya next time.